All right, welcome back to all our online participants in the Transdisciplinary Social Development Public Colloquium. I hope you all had a good break, no? Because we will have an afternoon full of sessions again. All right, this conference is organized by the Ateneo de Manila University, Department of Sociology and Anthropology, in coordination with the Nippon Foundation, University for Peace, and the Asian Peacebuilders Scholarship. Since this morning, we have listened to the successful implementation of community intervention projects across Asia, conducted by our 26 graduate students under the Masters in Transdisciplinary Social Development. The 26 graduate students are Asian Peacebuilders Scholars from the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and Japan. In the remaining 3 hours, we will continue to hear about the development experience and insights gained from the projects they co-produced and co-implemented with partner communities located across Asia. So in the next 3 hours, we will cover these interesting topics. For the first group, the topic is impacts of economic land concessions or ELCs on food security of Kui ethnic community, case study of Andes Village, Kampong Som, and Prame Village, Preavir in Cambodia. The presenters are Chika Hirahara, Haruka Kaduwaki, and Tini Mao. The examiners for this group are Dr. Alfred Pavlik, Dr. Jose Joel Canuday, and Dr. Glenda L. The second topic, the second group, is entitled Social Enterprise Development at Resettlement Site in the Philippines. The presenters are Daiki Oe, Koki Inuma, and Yuno Ito. The examiners for this group are Dr. Liza Lim, Dr. Joel Canuday, and Dr. Ana Marie Caracos. For the third group, the topic is entitled Community Empowerment through Human Rights-Based Participatory Training, Prevention of SGBV in the Domestic Sphere in Ampara, Sri Lanka. The presenters are Sajid Ahmed Fanordin, Tilini Ruwantika Galapastique, Nguyen Hong. The examiners are Dr. Melissa Ketulio Navarra, Ms. Jessica Claudio, and Dr. Wilfredo Torres and Dr. Enrico Niño Leviste. For the final topic or group for this afternoon, the topic is entitled Perspectives, Pedagogies, and Partnerships, Co-Creating Peace Education Programs in a Local Charity School in a Suburb of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. The presenters for this group are Carla May Bremen, Fumi Kuribayashi, Kanade Konimoto, and Tram Tran Tu. The examiners are Dr. Enrico P. Leviste, Dr. Melissa Ketulio Navarra, and Dr. Alfred Pavlik. Right after each presentation, as an interlocution by the examiners will be moderated by Mr. Artemio Art Milio. Mr. Milio will invite the examiners for the interlocution and ask them to switch on their videos and microphone for their questions or comments. Right after the interlocution of the first group, the next group will present and so on. Now, I'm inviting the first group to switch on your video so that we can highlight you accordingly. And then good luck on your presentations.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me well? Okay, good afternoon, Professor, Deans, cohort mates, and moderators. I hope that you had a great lunch and we were looking forward to our presentations and the coming groups. So we are delighted to present our project, Capstone Project here, titled Impacts of the Economic Land Concessions on Food Security of the Kui ethnic community. It's a case study that we conducted in Kampong Thom and Pravia province, which is a dense area in the northern part of Cambodia. So our team consists of 3 members, Chika Hirihara, Haruka Kadowaki, and myself, Tini Mao, and under the supervisions of Dr. Alfred Pavlik. So this is the overview outline of our presentation today. First, I'm going to discuss the background, research objective, questions, and methodology, and then Chika will continue with research results, and Haru will end the presentations with discussion and conclusions. So the first one is what is the background of the issues that happens in those two villages in Kampong Thom and Pravia province. As you have may known already, that economic land concessions is one of the schemes that most of the governments has adopted to improve, to boost the economic development in their countries. So it's the same as in Cambodia, that our government adopted this economic land concession scheme in around 97 to boost economic and to attract foreign direct investment in the country. However, this economic land concession was supposed to create jobs for the local, especially the underprivileged and disadvantaged people and the indigenous people in the country. But this economic land concessions is also one of the main human rights issues because of its nature of geography, that it happens mostly in the forest dense and mountainous areas. So those areas are mostly occupied by the indigenous groups. And in Cambodia, we have approximately 24 groups that have their habitat is in those areas. So as of this year, around 1.16 million hectares and has been concessions to the companies, and the total contracted concessionaires are around 229. So they operate and invested in agro-industrial nationwide. And why we chose this two community, because these two community is located in around Tonle Sap River and Tonle Sap Lake, which is one of the most the largest freshwater lake in the world, and also the forest land with a lot of resources. And they have been struggling with the land concessionaires for some decades, and they also have been dispossessed from their ancestral land and their forest land already. So this is after the land has been conceded. This was from 2016. So they have the company replaced the land with the rubber plantations. So it continues that it's brought a lot. Why we choose this Kui ethnic community, because they are one of the largest ethnic indigenous people in the country, and they practice their as agricultural practices. They farm on the land. They also go to the land to source the food. However, when the ELC occupied the land, they brought a lot of disadvantages to the people. They occupy the land, they clear the land, and also dispossess people from their ancestral land. And it also caused violence against the people, including physical and emotional violences. And the whole study about the Kui ethnic group is also very limited. Before the concessionaires, they occupy the land, they didn't conduct impact assessment or provide the transparent information to the people. So those people are being disinformed about what's going to happen in their community, and they were chased out from their land. So this is all the same and everywhere after the land was, the forest was cleared, and there's so many illegal smuggling. And this is the map that we has taken out from one of the prominent study. As you can see, the red area is all of the concessionaires, and the circle area in black is where our study has conducted. It's the border between the two provinces of Kampong Thom and Pravia province. So this study mainly we aims to study the impacts of the economic land concession of the food security of the household of the Kui people in Prasat Balang district and Kampong Thom province, and another one in Sprame village in Pravia province. It was we believe that it was significant for the community to be involved as a participants to construct the mechanism to leverage on the efforts of the community to be resilient, and also to amplify the capacity building for the youth volunteer and also the participant themselves. And it aims to answer three main research questions that discusses the major impacts of the ELC on Kui ethnic community, and also how does the ELC impact on household food security, and how could they sustain their resilience toward the change. So in order to conduct this research, we have designed three phases for this project implementation, which is the phase one is a basic survey that we gathered around 15 respondents, and through the random sampling with the help of our partner organizations. So this basic survey is just to mainly collect their data, where they are from and what they have been through, and what are the opinions on the economic land concession, and how do they sustain their resilience. And then after that, five key respondents will be selected from those former phase 15 respondents, and then they will be involved in the key informant interview, where our team conducted an interview with them one by one, and then target the question in more elaborative way. And then the last phase is the focus group discussions, which involve all of the 15 respondents again, and to do the workshop together, so that they can be divided into groups and discuss relatively among themselves, like what are the key opinions of the community leaders, and then what would be the change, what would be the mechanisms to respond to the change. And all of this methodology could not be implemented without the help of our project partner, the Cambodian Indigenous People Organization, in short as CIPO, which is one of the most prominent organization in the country, who works with the indigenous people all across the groups, and to ensure that they have the voice on their own, and to amplify the rights of the indigenous people. And then we made sure that all the participants who were involved in this project were considered critically in such inclusively, because we mainly selected the village chief as one of representative from the local authority, and deputy consul, also the members of the community saving groups, and other participants who consist of women, youth, and other representative from the surrounding area. So we conducted this process on the 3-day mains basis. And then this is the image that we documented from our project, and it was successfully conducted and smoothly, and we engaged with the people. So next, Chika will present the result of this implementation.
So from now, I will explain about the research result. For the basic survey, 15 community members and 1 community leader joined. Among them, 15 people perceived the impact of ELC as negative, and only 1 person, who is community leader, perceived it as both positive and negative. This gap is ascribed to the additional compensation that community leader got. Speaking of the change, their crop has also changed from rice to cassava, and along with that, they stopped practicing traditional way of farming. Also, before the ELC, most of people cultivate crops for their self-consumption, but after, it has changed for selling. However, all the participants except the leader commented their income has decreased. Also, the limited access to the forest caused by ELC was highlighted. 14 participants answered that they have entered the forest more than twice a week before the ELC to collect forest products and practice their rituals, but after ELC, they can no longer access to the forest. For the phase 2, please move to the next slide. We interviewed 5 participants. Through this interview, we investigated more detailed situation caused by ELC. The interviewees explained why they perceived the impact of ELC as negative. Because of the ELC, all the free food was cleared, and they have to go to the market to buy food. But because of the limited access to the forest, they can no longer sell forest products to get income. This increased access to the market caused nutritious concern too. Before ELC, all the food consumed by the community members were fully organic. But now what they can buy is only the processed foods in the market. Also, several interviewees mentioned about different impact based on the gender, and ELC caused more struggle for female. In the community, it's female who buy and cook the food. However, the main income earner is male. And since their lifestyle has been changed from self-sufficiency to market-based lifestyle, it greatly affects female. Moreover, the participants commented about violence and their constant fear. The ELC has not always been processed safely, and they have been faced armed confrontation. To this, they have to take measures such as enlisting in military. For the phase 3, focus group discussion and workshop, there were 14 participants. This phase 3 allowed us to gain more information and perspectives from the participants. But not only that, the participants could also learn from each other and realize their already existing community. At the beginning, almost all the participants except the 2 school teachers could only connect EOC with actual company name, but did not really know the relationship with governmental policy. However, we could observe that during the discussion, these 2 school teachers took initiatives to explain the relationship and background of EOC to other participants. Also, during the discussion, the participants commented that flexibility and inclusivity is important to increase the resilience. I have already mentioned the financial impact of EOC before, but in the community, they have formed saving groups, and this shows that they try to find a way to adapt to the change. And in addition to that, this Capstone project targeted 2 communities with varied age, and this has also promoted cross-community and cross-generation relationship. Next, Haru will explain about the discussion and conclusion.
Our team has several that we would like to highlight as our discussion point. The meaning of the development. The neoliberal model of development has resulted in the state rapid economic growth by sacrificing the living of numerous people with the described affected by Chika, which lead to accelerating the discord of the social inequality. The Kui is becoming more vulnerable to being discriminated against and disposed as an additional beings. Their identity that is tied to the land, the spiritual forest, environment, and nature are in the pit of being ignored and insignificant. So that they are not only lose their heritage, but they are also deprived of their futures. Number 2, the gender parity. The gender parity has been increased as women face the heavier burden than male counterpart. The women, as significant actors involved directly in household diet, have to inevitably confront not only household necessity but also external factors, such as environmental degradation, food shortage, violence for both domestic and social, the gender barriers, lack of opportunity, and other inequality posed by the indigenous and Khmer cultural norm. Number 3, the power of information. Access to the information as a fundamental right should be considered. Marginalized groups like the Kui community, they tend to be an information poor which leave them behind in the development process. We believe our input session about economic land concession was strong, as it helped them to gain the new knowledge, right recognition of the term economic land concession, and most importantly, it helped them to stand in the starting point of the development intervention. Therefore, we believe the enhancement of the access to the information will be a step forward to bring all stakeholders to the dialogue table. Next slide, please. The power of people. Among all the findings, the presence of the community integrity was remarkable. The community believed and estimated that the power of the collectivity to overcome all the difficulties. Inclusivity in family, community, cross-community, and cross-generation was mentioned as a crucial component of building a reliance network. The project team could observe their adaptability, resilience as their strengths, and how they perceive their changes and keep up their living in their own ways. For instance, in the form of the community-based saving group, a shareholding rights association, and agriculture and sports committees. This motion needs to be escalated on a larger scale to make a radical change. In conclusion, next slide, please. Thank you. This study demonstrated the economic land concession have brought the huge impact on the community. The types of impact lies in food security, physical, mental, emotional, identity violence against the locals, human rights abuse, especially indigenous rights, and further unprecedented harm to the people. The second, the insight, our study also highlights the significance of participatory community development, especially the power of people that is a key to bring an inclusive development. As a recommendation, we would propose more proactive engagement and eagerness of the local, especially with the trained youth volunteer, because we believe that could amplify the needs and intervention from related stakeholders in sustaining Kui cultures. In short, this Capstone project was a learning process to reflect the meaning of development and how it should happen. It must involve the most marginal group of the people in the center and also bring all the stakeholders to the dialogue table. We must believe and should not underestimate the power of people because it will definitely be the solid foundation for any equitable, transparent, and sustainable development process. Move to the last one. The last but not least, we'd like to deliver our appreciation to the Asian Peacebuilders Scholarship, and also again, the special thanks to our local collaborator, Cambodia Indigenous People Organization, SIPO. This project couldn't happen without their tremendous assistance. Even though we couldn't share the time together at the site, but SIPO arranged everything, including delegating the youth volunteer to amplify the voice of the indigenous people in the group, in the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you, presenters. At this point, we now proceed to the interlocution. Same as this morning, I would like to remind everyone that 3 questions will be asked by our esteemed examiners. Anyone from the group may respond. All right. I would like to virtually welcome our esteemed examiners, Dr. Jose Joel Picanuday, Dr. Alfred Pavlik, and Dr. Glenda L.
Who will go on first?
Go ahead, Dr. Joel.
Okay, then I'll pass it on. Thank you for this report. I'm trying to get a handle about your project. Is it a study? Is it a consultation? Or is it some other means? So a clarity of what it is. Or is it an action research for something? And it's an action research. What actions is it trying to achieve? What agenda is it trying to achieve? Because these will contrast with just purely knowledge production for the purposes of publications. That is there something that it wants to achieve, and also that achievement seeing through the light of day. I'll probably end there for a bit.
Yes, thank you, Professor. I'll answer to that question. This study, this is a combination of research and also the participatory development activity with the community member. Because we mainly focus on the data collection, especially for the phase and phase 2. That is simply that we find it is it's problematic in that notion in the problem of the economic land concession, because there's insufficient data, so that we have to collect the data first to grasp the reality of what is happening, what is going on that ground. But then we also highlight the importance in the phase 3, that is a collaboration with the people, and because there was no spotlight from the government and other related stakeholder, so that the people in the community, they didn't really have an opportunity to express their feeling and what they think about the economic land concession. And also they have actually no clue what is economic land concession is until we provide the definition and of the economic land concession. So that we believe that our activity was very useful for the people by giving them kind of the knowledge about the economic land concession and how they can go through all the difficulty that created by the economic land concession. Especially,
Okay.
yes, we think it is very important that we create the space for the people that they can express their opinion and they actually exchange the opinion, like we highlighted in the presentation in the different level.
If that is the aim, if that is the feature of this project, it has to be clear in the written paper, because in the paper it wasn't so clear. And I think more clarity on who will use this. If the organization that you're partnering with, are they using it, and for what ends, for what purpose? Is it for the campaign? Is it for policy advocacy? Is it for whatever purpose? It isn't so clear in the paper, and also in the presentation. Just last point about again the matter on what's in the paper and also what's in the presentation. This idea of safe space, it was also written in the paper that one of your purpose is to establish a platform for dialogue, and then that dialogue would be a safe space wherein people can engage. I was thinking, what's the feature of the dialogue? Are there contrasting position from the participants of the dialogue? But what it seems that in the presentation is really one community, like-minded, and they are engaging. Probably one area that I would ask you and then challenge you to also further improve is that in any other conversation there will always be points of not necessarily disagreements, but points of difference. Were you able to capture the points of difference and how they were able to converse and then to resolve those points of difference? Because that's where the essence of dialogue would come in. So points of difference, points of similarity, points of resolution of that difference. So we can really see the conversation, the dialogue coming in. Otherwise, it might pass more as a workshop more than really a dialogue or a conference. So and then you noted that this is intergenerational. There might be some different positions and the sensitivity of those positions. And it's important to also hear what the partners are saying, but how the partners are have understood, analyzed, have accepted or not accepted the voices from the dialogue. What are the roles of the partners in the dialogue? That has to also be highlighted. I think they do have a role, and it seems that you said that they were the ones who organized, and I'm sure they also converse. They must have a position as well. So it's not just their position; it's also the position of the partners and the position of the community. And lastly, probably the idea of safe space. What's the requirement for a safe space? When do we say that the space is safe? It's not just a declaration that this is a safe space. So there has to be an articulation of what counts as a safe space, and what safety are we establishing? What's the danger probably that the people might, the participants or issues that the participants might encounter, that they need a safe space, that it is a safe space. Because it's one thing to declare a safe space, it's also another thing to establish the condition why a safe space is needed, and what's the requirement for the safe space to be initiated. So among the things that you might want to explore is that what happens in the purview of the discussion, what's the limits and the extent of the discussion for it to become safe, where the data would go, who would process the data, and so on and so forth, and what kind of views or position might qualify for protection for that matter, and who might need protection so that the safe space can actually be established. So in context, we probably know these requirements more than I do, because it also depends on the context, the situation on the ground. I'll turn it over to my colleagues, Alfred and Glenda.
And can I go next, because my comments are also related to what Dr. Kanuday said. So yeah, so I noticed from your presentation, so this is different from the other presentations that were made earlier about the project. Like one or two groups, they co-develop a training material with their partner organization, and then what happened after that is that they turned over these materials for their partner organizations to continue implementing this. But in your case, I didn't see that in your presentation. So my question or comment is that like moving forward, so what is going to happen with the data, the research data that you gathered? Like how are you going to use this to concretely impact the community in order for them to benefit from the research that you conducted, especially in terms of for them to confront the problem of food security because of LEC. Yeah, and the second point is for your third research question. I was trying to grapple from your presentation on how you address this. Your third research question is, I'll read it in my notes. How could the community increase the resilience toward change? Okay, so yeah, so how did you answer this, or how are you going to answer this particular research question that you posed in your project? So that's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. So let me answer to both of your questions. So the first one regarding the result of the project and also the outputs, we will be sharing this the manuscript with our partner organizations. So they will use that data as the basis of what should they construct or design next to assist the people, not just that particular selected community, but among other indigenous community, what kind of assistance that they need, or what kind of loops that they should fill in or assist, and what kind of dialogue that the organization should have form between the local authority, the people, and the national level. Because throughout the project, we have found that the people, their opinion, the perspective regarding ELC and also the impact also varied. Like the people of senior age, they did not understand what is ELC. They just say that it's a company that plants the rubber plantations, but they didn't know that what's the meaning behind it and what is the purpose of ELC. And that's the very difference from the people in middle age, like around 30, who participated in this project. They understood very well, like what kind is ELC, and then what kind of impacts that ELC brought to their community, and how have their life changed after the ESC present in their community. And also the younger people around 17 and 18 who were the younger in high school, they did not understand the concept of ELC as well. So this perspective varies from age basis. And then this data is very important because we discussed with our partner organizations, and then they think that it's very very fundamental for them to continue to look at those data and find formulate the solutions to help the people. And then going back to your second questions, like I mentioned earlier, how did they form their resilience throughout? How did we observe they have found their resilience? Is that they discussed that it's very important to have the community-based groups. For instance, they have already established community saving groups, which is to help the people who were at disadvantage after the ELC and who were dispossessed from their land. So they become landless right now, and they only got their social concessions from the government to relocate their house, but they cannot access the forest or their farmland anymore. So which means their food security and also the livelihood source has been cut down. So this community, they gather all the people who are richer, I would say, who are richer than the other, to contribute rice or money, so that they use that money and rice to help the other people who are at more disadvantage. And right now they are also starting to form the soccer groups, agriculture groups, and forest groups, like a community ranger or community youth development, that they can help the younger people, especially children, to build resilience among themselves, because they believe that as a Kui people, the identity is the indigenous people and they live as a community. But since they lost their forest, their identity is also fading alongside with their solidarity. So in order to build the bondage and also the relationships among younger generations, this kind of groups or establishments is very important for the people from younger generation until the senior generations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Dr. Alfred.
Hello and good afternoon, and congratulations to your presentation and to the manuscript. My apologies for being a bit late. Our Dean's Research Council meeting took a bit longer. For my questions, I would have quite a lot of questions that are more contents related, and because I find it a very interesting and fascinating topic, and I like the way your research was aiming at. And in following Dr. Kanuda and Dr. Wui, basically I had the same questions in my mind. I see this also as a kind of a long-term collaboration and something that can build a very lasting relation that has research on one hand with the CUI response to changes imposed by the government and dramatic changes and threats of their livelihood and their socio-cultural identity as kind of a case study, as an example for similar situations. At the same time, it is certainly worth to continue, and so my question would be, how do you plan to continue after you finish your capstone project? Do you see a joint future with yourself as part of a research team that continues working with the CUI?
Professor, thank you so much for the comment. Yes, hopefully we continue to collaborate with the CIPO and the community. We collaborated this time, but we cannot just say we will do that, because it's a kind of remote, but we believe that there's something that we can do in the remote. And also, I think beside what Tiani mentioned earlier about the utilizing the data, the collected data, I believe on behalf of us or our partner organization, we also train the youth volunteer and based in that the project site. We believe that they already have data collection the skill, and also some sort of to organize a kind of the meeting with the community, how to facilitating the meeting. And so we believe that by collaborating with the youth volunteer, we can also sustain the activity for the future, especially at the site, not only the remote, but yes, at the site with the power of the people at the ground.
Thank you very much. I also would like to pick up on the suggestion from my colleagues, and perhaps something that would benefit our manuscript would be including an outlook, maybe not a chapter, but one or two paragraphs at towards the end of the discussion that discusses exactly that, and what is the future of this study, what are possible benefits, how can we sustain it, and how can we continue to communicate and help to empower the community. So that is probably something that would be very appreciated by the readers of your paper eventually. I have one question out of curiosity. You described that the community leader is in a kind of a privileged position, and he was the only one who actually saw a positive side in the ELC, and probably because he benefited most, or if not, he was not, if he wasn't the only one who benefited from the ELC. How is his position in the community? How is he considered? And there must be criticism or frustration in the community, or is that taken as okay? It's accepted as is.
Yeah, let me answer these questions. Actually, throughout the interview, all the information was kept confidential and not be shared with other members. So during the interview, he mentions that he's kind of actually thinks that it's positive because right now he's also the village chief and he receives the salaries from the government. That's why he thinks that having more monetary income is much better than spending his physical energy to go to the forest to source the food. And it's also cannot sell the money, sells those products for the money. So we responded that it's quite interesting that he provided this kind of answers while we was expecting that he should be responding that it's a loss for the whole community, but maybe he thinks that it's also much better that people should turn forward to a more economic way to find jobs rather than keep going to the forest. As one side note is that the community, they have not received their customary land right yet. So they have to file for the communal lands titles as a community to sustain their ancestral forest. However, they have not received any entitlement from the government to own the rights. That's why he believes that having a stable income is much better than going to the forest, which is not unstable and it's very cannot expect anything. Yeah.
And this might be in the future of the community, that especially the younger ones who have not that strong relationship to the forest and the ancestral domain and practices will probably also move away. Sorry, that was kind of a question, just another question out of curiosity, how the younger members of the community are reacting, and if you would think that there's a greater willingness to leave the traditional ways of living using the forest behind and practically follow the example of the community leader and find other ways of sustaining their livelihood.
Actually, during the Capstone implementation period, we felt that the younger generation has more sense of like problem about economic land concession, and they have more knowledge and they understand well about the background and problem of ELC. So we didn't really feel that they will move away from their land, but now they are trying to find a way to how to like inherit their traditional way of farming, for example, or rituals. But now the systems, like they like to do the traditional rituals, they have to go to the forest, but now they don't have access to the forest. And also the crops has changed. So they have to adapt a new way of cultivating crops. So like it's very hard for them to continue sustaining their traditional way. But yeah, like they try to make a like space for communication, like saving group sports committee, and try to adapt the like traditional culture and practices.
That's actually find that very positive. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you again for your presentation. And just to conclude it was a great pleasure working with you. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alfred, Dr. Joel, and Dr. Glenda. Are there more questions from you?
No, I'm just curious. Because if you are doing an advocacy regarding a policy issue, it would really help a lot if we have this champion, maybe coming from the government, who are the people who are responsible in implementing policies. So obviously, the village chief, who is a government official, is not really a champion of the community. Are there any other else, maybe who's going to maybe help the a community who are concerned with the ALP issue, ALEC issue, is going to champion the cause of the community? Are there other groups? Oh, it would really help if someone is from the government as well.
Thank you for the questions. I think that that community leader is not really the champion for their community. That there's another person. Her name is Mai, and she's from Japan. So she's also one of the partner with our partner organizations, and she occasionally and quite often brought visitors from abroad or from the youth group in Cambodia to visit that community and to engage them in more creative way, like to design the brochure about what is Gui culture and what kind of food they eat and what is their meaning, so that they use that kind of creative brochure to publish and then spread to Singapore and then to Japan. It's called Door to Asia. It's one of the, it's like a camp program. So she's very engaging in this kind of things. And then the community, they very welcome her. And then they expect, like, they also expect the same outputs from our team as well. That's why the community members who were participating in our project, they was like asking us, could you provide us the manuscript after you finished everything, so that we could use it and as a gift and also as a samples for other next coming visitors, so that they could think about what we have done and then what should be the best way for them to continue our, I would say, legacy. It's like to continue to sustain this kind of process.
Thank you.
Thank you, presenters, and thank you as well to our examiners. At this point, I would like to turn this over to Trish for the introduction of the next group.
All right. So thank you, Sir Art, for that. And thank you for the presenters and the examiners. I'm calling now the second group. Oh, their topic is about social enterprise development at resettlement site in the Philippines. The presenters are Daiki Owe, Koki Inoma, Yuno Ito.
Yes, thank you. I'm sharing screen. Give me a second. Okay, thank you. I'm ready. Okay, magandang hapon. Hello, everyone. So our Capstone project is a social enterprise development at resettlement site in the Philippines. And this project was fully conducted online by Daiki, Koki, and Yuno. And this is a table of contents here. So as a starter, I wanted to introduce our partner organization, which is Jolly Homes Foundation. And the two people from Jolly Homes Foundation, Vince and Rajal, are here also to see our presentation. So thank you so much for participating. And just a brief information of our partner NGO. Jolly Homes Foundation was established in 2019, based in Calauan, Laguna. And they have been providing assistance in housing and urban development. And more specifically, they have been working in the area of resettlement planning, organizational development, policy and research programs, social development, and social enterprise development. And there are several reasons why we decided to partner with Jolly Homes Foundation. One thing is because of the fact that their close relations or connection with the community. And also they are working with Ateneo de Manila University as well. And more importantly, we also agree with the vision or the value that Jolly Homes Foundation have, which is to have to find to value on a community participation. So these are the reasons why we decided to partner with Jolly Homes Foundation. So targeted communities are 2 here, but at the initial stage of our implementation, we were still thinking about 8 different communities for our Capstone project. But eventually, because of the many limitations in terms of time, capacity, and budget, we decided to focus on 2 communities here. And what they have in common is that they both have a interest, willingness, and also needs for business development. And so we decided to focus on these as specific sites for our Capstone project. Also, just to briefly, there are a lot of problems on the communities, but one of the problems that we decided to tackle with this Capstone project is economic instability of the community. So the way of intervention that we took for this program is the creation of a social enterprise development manual with a supplementary workshop based on the manual. So in a sense, our Capstone project aims to establish accessible educational resources for social enterprise development to the relocated community. And these are going to be explained a little bit in detail later.
Yeah, so next I will explain the methodology. The first part is engagement with project partner. And we have begun discussing about the Capstone project with Jolly Homes Foundation since March. And they have lots of working experiences of community development and empowerment, before as Colloquium mentioned. And they have conducted about social enterprise development program, such as value chain analysis, business planning, and cooperative management in the past. However, these are the essential, these are the basic elements of social enterprise, and they only covered briefly what a social enterprise is or how it will be beneficial for communities. Regarding resettlement sites in Metro Manila, they have been encountering difficulties after the COVID-19 pandemic regarding income generation. And they have been struggling to pay essential goods or services such as electricity bills or foods. However, women in communities have willingness to do income generation activity. So Jolly Homes Foundation and our group decided to improve the social enterprise development program by making a guideline to enhance income generation activities of community members. Next slide, please. So before writing a draft, we planned to do a needs assessment. We asked 8 community representatives to attend it to gather more information. It's a semi-structured group interview with prepared questions and spontaneous one via Zoom. The objective is to identify what kinds of business skills and knowledge community members are looking for starting a social enterprise, and to know how to popularize the guideline. Their participation is completely voluntary, so there's no penalty even if they will not attend it. Next slide, please. And this is a stakeholder analysis. Jolly Homes Foundation, our group members, and 8 community representatives have high influence on that project. Because Jolly Homes Foundation has a strong relationship with communities and facilitate our communication with community leaders. Our group members write a guideline and blend community leaders' knowledge, perspectives, opinions into the guideline. So community leaders' opinions are very essential to make beneficial guidelines. Other stakeholders, cooperatives, community members, local government, such as municipal office, and national housing authorities, and business partners with the community. And our program has the potential to have effects on them. However, during the Capstone Project, they had less contact with them due to the time restriction.
Okay, next about problem 3 on how we structured the problem of the community. So firstly, with our preliminary knowledge of social development, we assumed problems they face like gender, financial and economic stability, so on and so forth. But we finally found out that, as Koki and mentioned, economic stability is a problem they face, and they try to overcome this situation by establishing social development. So we focused on this problem, and considering our time limitation and our capacity, we decided to focus on establishing a training manual for social development. Next, please. This is our overall flow of the project. Unfortunately, due to our time limitation, our implementation period is about activity, is focused on activity and outcome. So, and in that sense, our implementation is part of the whole process. So, and we implemented our project focusing on activity and outcome. And for activity, we produced a manual, as we mentioned, respecting feedback from our partners and the need assessments from the community. And and we hope that this will lead to the ultimate impact, like improving economic situations in that communities, and also enhance their knowledge of social enterprises in the future. Yes, next please.
So from this part, we will explain the result of the project. First of all, we conducted the needs assessment with 8 community representatives before, as I explained. As a result, we decided to include these contents of guidelines. These are part 1, social enterprise development, part 2, grant writing, and part 3 is financial management. So let me explain the manual creation. Part 1 is business development. The introduction emphasizes the difference of social enterprise and normal business. The primary objective of social enterprise is to benefit the environment and communities. And this part introduces the potential of cooperatives because they have lots of potential to provide direct benefits such as market information, technical assistance, and bargaining power. Next slide, please. Chapter 2 is writing a business plan. Business plan is a document that describes the business, its products or service, and how to get revenues and other essential elements. Basically, business plan contains only competitive customer, company, and industrial analysis. However, we added community analysis because it's essential to realize what assets are in our community to do sustainable social enterprise. Financial plans such as fundraising, projection of price and costs, and financial management are described in Koki and Daiki's part. Next slide, please. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is developing a brand. So this part shows how to decide a brand concept and how to come up with a brand name. When they want to expand their business in the future, establishing a core concept of brand is very important to decide the future plan. And the right naming is a variable assets because consumers can remember easily if the brand name or product is simple or right name and what stands out among other businesses. To popularize my guideline, this part explains it with the case of Jollibee as references.
And the second part of the manual is about grant writing, and how we try to organize our manual is that so we try to make it in a logical order. So the idea is that after explaining how you develop your business plan in part 1, the next step would be in order to launch your business or start your initiative, you need financial capital to start off. And the idea is in part 2 to explain some of the ways in order to get the funding for your new initiative. So in this section, grants, loans, and fundraising, these 3 methods are explained with both advantages and disadvantages. And our group decided to focus on grants. One thing is because during the needs assessment interview, we detected a high demand and also interest toward the grants. So in the following chapter, we decided to, focus on grants writing. And another reason is that one of the group members have some experience working in grant application with the community. So we thought that experience also could be incorporated to the manual. So we included some of the tips in order to write a successful grant application. And at the end, we also gave a recommendation of one of the grants or that they can possibly apply in the Philippines. And after having a business plan, we developed, after the business plan development, we introduced a way to raise the funding. And then we are moving on to third part of the manual, which is how you manage your finance.
So I was in charge of manualizing financial management, and the needs assessment, the participants mentioned that they have little knowledge of finance management, and they believe that this knowledge will be helpful for them. So financial management part, it takes a significant part of this manual. So firstly, I wrote about the pricing, and deciding the price of goods and services is a critical process for starting business. So this chapter introduced the methods of pricing and representative methods like cost plus and competitive methods that can help leaders to get hints of pricing their products. However, pricing and financial management is sometimes too complex and difficult. So this chapter includes examples and figures that enable leaders to have a concrete image of how to calculate like this. And next, please. And this is about accounting for a social enterprise. Accounting is pivotal for keep running businesses. However, we found from the needs assessment that the community members had not experienced accounting education, and they mentioned that this can be an obstacle for them. So this chapter takes a lot of pages of the manual. And our challenge was to explain accounting principles in an understandable way for beginners. So we included accounting ways that we try to omit complex principles that will not helpful for starting social businesses. And But on the other hand, we included accounting ways that standard texts do not explain, but the community members may need, such as ways for glance. As Koki mentioned, glance is important for social businesses in this context. So we included ways for glance in this chapter, but this is not always a topic for standardized texts. And also this chapter includes a lot of figures and exercises that will help leaders image accounting on their that will help leaders manage accounting on their own, like this. Next, please. So like this, figures and charts. I used a lot of figures and charts to facilitate understanding of accounting. Thank you. Next, please.
So after we created a manual, we tried to conduct 2 workshops in 2 different sites based on our manual. And we ended up entrusting Jolly Homes Foundation for conducting workshop because of many constraints. So in that sense, our engagement with the community in this specific workshop phase was not much, to be honest. But looking at the output from the workshop, one community successfully completed a business plan, and they also have a specific plan to move forward. And the ample amount of manual was utilized, especially from the business development part and also financial management side. So to some extent, we believe that the manual that we created the knowledge from our manual are transferred to the community thanks to the help from the Jolly Homes Foundation.
I'm sorry for interrupting presenters, but unfortunately we are pressed for time. So you may want to make a conclusion.
Yes, thank you. Can you go ahead, please?
Okay, so we finally published a training manual that will be helpful for establishing social business in cooperation with our partners. So therefore, we reached some satisfactory outcomes in this project. However, we encountered some difficulties like other teams, like language barriers, online modality, time and schedule. But we think that this hands-on project was a good experience for us to start out as development workers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now let's welcome on board our examiners, Dr. Liza Lim, Dr. Ana Marie Caraos, and Dr. Jose Joel Canuday. We can begin with Dr. Liza.
My apologies. Can you begin first with the others, because I have to change. I have to change account. Somebody's gonna use the account that I'm using. Apologies for that. I'll be in again in a minute.
That's fine, Dr. Liza. We can. All right. Go ahead, Dr. Joel.
So sorry, Lisa. Sorry.
No problem.
Because I have a 3:00 appointment.
Yeah,
just very quickly, a very interesting project, and I can see for the presentation the impact that you might have already done, and also the impact of the partner Jolly Homes on your own work, and probably hopefully as well the trajectory of what you want to do development wise. But I'm just wondering, your paper and also the discussion now revolves around these concepts, this notion of social enterprise, and social enterprise is currently it's a long running idea, but it's continuously being understood, because it would seem that the idea, the concept, the very notion of social enterprise seems to be really still evolving. Now, what I'm probably looking from your paper and also from your presentation now is your conception of the particular conception of social enterprise. I did hear articulating what social enterprise is very, very quickly for that matter, but I'm not so sure where it's coming from. Although there's a whole model and also theorizing, conceptualizing of what social enterprises. One particular idea of social enterprise refer to it as an entrepreneurial, activities with a social purpose from Austin and some authors. And another author was saying that social enterprise is an innovation, a new business model, particularly to address human needs. Do your paper fall into that? Do your project fall into that definition? And another conception of social enterprise is that these are activities and processes of or that aims to help create social wealth, and there are more. So I'm wondering from what angle are you pursuing this project, this paper, and your engagement with Jolly Homes? Is it the technical matter, raising technical understanding of partners of Jolly Homes in engaging social enterprise? Is it wealth production, joint wealth production? Is it addressing human needs, and so on and so forth? You might probably have to think around that. Probably final point. I've read the paper, and there's a lot of good data and also discussions that you're offering in the presentation, which I'm trying to match with the paper. At the moment, the paper does not seem to reflect many of the interactions that you've already done with the partners, and much of the current structure of the paper is on the chapters of the manual, which I think need not to be elaborated in the paper, but the manual can come as an appendix, as an attachment. But what you need to probably present more in the paper is the process. I think this is where the work of Manuel Angulo earlier has probably hit the nail, when he focused on the process and try to understand the processual dimension of the project, how the engagement happened. And I think we need a few more discussion on that process. And probably also on extension, the same question that I was asking Manuel earlier is in the sections of the manual, or in the concepts, in the conceptualization of the manual, in the concepts of the manual, what was the feedback coming from your partners? So when you decided that section A would be that topic, section B, and down the line, when you talk about costing in the manual, what was the feedback coming from the partners, and also coming from the community, and how you interacted, you resolved that feedback in the spirit of co-production, and also in the spirit of co-benefits? How did you run the back and forth of this dynamics? And it's important for us to see how it's actually done. So when if others would look for a knowledge production, a knowledge frame on how it can be done, they can look into what you have done exactly. But it's important that this is also connected to link to a better frame, a better concept on what do we really meant by social enterprise in this regard. I'll probably end there because I'm taking so much time.
Thank you, Dr. Joel. Let's have Dr. Ana Marie Caraos.
Yes, thank you, Art, because my line of questioning is somewhat aligned with the questions of Dr. Canuday. My first question, well, first of all, thank you very much for your interest in social enterprises in resettlement sites, because my own work for many years has been with urban poor communities in informal settlements as well as in resettlement sites. And I do affirm that livelihood is a very important concern of community members in such situations. So thank you for having an interest in this topic and doing a complete project around it. My first question is, since the target users of I assume that the target users of the manual has two levels. The first would be the Jolly Homes, which is the partner organization, but also ultimately the members of the communities who are interested in enterprise development. So there are two layers of the target users, right? But then the manual is really seems to be not making that distinction. So it's like a manual, and then the user will have to find a way to make use of the contents of the manual. So I sympathize with you that it is very challenging for you to conduct a project like this purely online, because the on-site interaction with both the partner and the community members would have been very critical, for you to be able to contextualize both the content and the process, of the developing social enterprises as you put it down in a manual form. What I'm saying is, when we construct instruments like a manual, we always have the user in mind, right? So the user, knowing the users would be very crucial for us to adjust, the manual, the material in terms of the content as well as the methodology. But I do realize your constraint, but I hope that you are able to appreciate, that is really a very important limitation, not being able to have a first-hand knowledge, of your target users. So my question, I have questions also on, well, you presented the problem tree, but there was, I'm sorry, I have to say that I was informed that I would be an examiner only this morning, so I did not have, I was not able to read the report, the paper. So I'm just basing my comments and questions on the presentation just done now. So the problem tree was presented, constructed, but I did not see really how the data led to the manual as the sort of the critical need that was prioritized, and how well, and what specific competencies or what specific, well, you did say that you conducted a needs assessment, but the connection between the needs assessment as well as the data from for constructing the problem tree, that wasn't really very clear in the presentation, but maybe in the paper it might might be clearer, or if it's not there, maybe that's something that can be improved upon. So just like Dr. Kanuday, I thought that the value of your experience and your project is being able to document the working relationship between you and the partner organization, Jolly Homes, because in many ways you were very dependent on the partner organization for the use of the manual. I mean, using it for the target participants, the community members who are interested in livelihood development. And it would be interesting to know what adjustments that they needed to make, because they were the ones in direct contact with the communities. They were using your basic material based on your own assessment of what needed to be in the manual in terms of content, but it really looked like a very standard business development type of manual, and I wasn't sure, how it has been adjusted, to the specific level of understanding and appreciation of community members, knowing, the community, people in the community are also of different status in terms of education, maybe in terms of their experience in businesses. Some have experience, others do not have experience. So we have all of these variations of actual people and actual users of your product, and it is up to the partner organization to adapt your basic material to the needs of these community members. So I think that would be an important part of your project and your experience in developing this project, to be able to capture that that process, of making these adjustments because of from the feedback of the partner organization, as well as the workshop that was conducted by them. Yes. So I don't know. Maybe you can respond to those comments if you will.
Yes. I try to answer or make a comment on what you said, Professor. So the first point about the user of the manual, it was supposed to be for both Jolly Homes Foundation and the community. And the thing is, knowledge transfer is one of the things that we struggled, because creating manual based on the needs assessment wasn't too complicated, based on the experience that we have and also the needs assessment that we conducted. But the difficulty was how we transfer the knowledge to the community, because we cannot just give the manual to the community, or we cannot distribute. And there, what we needed was like an intimidator or the people in the middle to transfer or summarize or carry out that knowledge to the community. And we ended up entrusting Jolly Homes Foundation for that. So I guess one of the things that we need to do on the way forward is the, of course, adjustment of the manual, because although after the workshop, one community have a complete business plan to move forward, but we are not entirely sure if the manual itself was very clear to understand. Maybe they were able to understand because of the workshop or because of the support from the Jolly Homes Foundation on the ground. So I guess the feedback for the manual and adjustment is one of the things that should be done to be fully beneficial to the community. And if I may answer to your second comment, Professor, I guess about the core problem and this the economic instability. I guess first of all, what we did was to analyze the secondary data, because we knew that there are some projects under Jolly Homes Foundation in terms of social enterprise development. So, but we, at the same time, we detected some of the materials or works that's being done previously were very generalized. What are the social enterprise, or what are the benefits? What's good, or what's the potential benefits of the social enterprise? So we try to so we have that assumption already in our mind, and then we try to pinpoint the needs or specific scale of the specific skills that's needed from the community to include in the manual. And yeah, I don't know if that fully answer your question, but that's the process that we've been through.
Now let's have Dr. Lin. Thank you, Dr. Karaos.
Okay, sige. Apologies for earlier because I was using a different machine. I have to transfer. So, well, pretty much my comments are articulated by both Dr. Canuday and Dr. Karaos. But again, I would go back to what Dr. Canuday has said. You need to elaborate the concept of social enterprise and try to link why the manual is important to that. And at the same time also articulate how it can economically benefit the community. One thing also that I noted was that you seem to equate social enterprise with income generation, but it's a different thing. Income generation for the community and social enterprise as an approach might be different. And if we're focusing on social enterprise, we need to also build on the competencies and resources of the people in the community to be able to do that. And I was trying to look at it from the manuscript. It seems that it was not discussed yet because we focus on what they want to do and what they're committed to do, but I did not see any assessment of what resources do they have in the community that they can actually utilize for social enterprise. What are the skills that the people have in the community that can be used? This is something that maybe you were able to get in your in your community profiles, but in the manuscript that I saw, there was not that much description of the communities that you intend to be for the manual to be used. So I really cannot, I cannot pin down how they're going to use the manual. Because of course we need to know first what enterprise they're going to adopt or implement, so that we would be able to know that, right? As Dr. Caraos has mentioned, the manual are very standard, and this has to be translated into something that the community can resonate with, using the resources and using the skills and capacities that they have. So which is why it's not only translation that's needed, but actually localizing the manual itself in the context of the community. Which also brings me to ask, I am not clear about who will be the user of the manual. Would it be Jolly Homes or would it be the community? Because if it's Jolly Homes, then I think maybe the standard manual might be understandable to them, but for the community, some might not be able to do so, might not be able to use it much. Okay, so yung technical complications of it. Also, I wanted to ask, how can it complement yung the assistance provided by Jolly Homes Foundation, primarily also because my experience in social enterprise and working with a community, they always ask you to help them get grants. But after a certain period of time, what actually is needed is not simply just to get grants and support for their enterprise, but rather how do they operate and implement the enterprise later. That's a technical aspect. Because in many cases, they can write beautiful grant proposals, okay, viable grant proposals even. But when it's time for implementations, actually where the problem actually starts. Okay, so yun, and that would be answered if you at least included or inserted a reflection of what resources, skills, and capacities they have in terms of social enterprises. The other question that I have is, when you run the pilots, were they able to use it? The community, that is, were they able to actually do the exercises that you asked them to do? Because that would tell you also the level of apprehension that they have of the manual and whether or not they can be used in the future. So, and again, I affirm the impression, maybe it's just in the manuscript, but I affirm the impression that it seems that the group has been very dependent on Jolly Homes to do most of the work in terms of dealing with the community. Maybe you can also try to sit in and observe and try to see also what the feedbacks are in the community. I know the limitations of online, doing this online, but at least if you sit in, maybe just observing it and asking also some questions during the workshops and feedbacking, you might be able to get some feedbacks from the community also on whether they can actually use the manuals or not. Because I know these are standard naman eh. These are standard contents of the manuals, but you need to be able to tweak it so that the community can actually understand, apprehend, and use it for their purposes. Okay. I guess that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. Your response?
So for the question about standardized content, we assume that this will be popularized through Jolly Homes Foundation, and so we intend to popularize this manual beyond the targeted community in this at this time. So we have to think about generality of manual. So that's why it tended to be like a bit standardized manual. So And
Yeah, but I think one thing that can be done is actually draw examples from their own communities. Probably some enterprises that they've already run, which seems to be successful, so that they can relate to it a bit more. So,
yeah, this can be our reflection points here.
yeah, yes. Yeah,
But
just a suggestion.
Koki and Yuno, would you like to add?
Yes, Professor, thank you very much for a lot of comments, and obviously we have a lot to add on the manual. And some of the things that you pointed out, for example, profile of the community and also some of the skills that they have in the community. These are some of the information that we already have in the report, but simply it was lacking from the manuscript. So we definitely do add on that to make the manual better. And also, I think personally, another challenging point was how you measure the success of the project, because the social enterprise development is establishing the social enterprise is not the goal of the project, because if you have to see how the business runs and how long it lasts, and it actually have the profit to the cooperative. So I think that's a long-term assessment, and that cannot be measured at this point. So I just wanted to bring that up there. Thank you.
But probably formulating the success indicators, you might be able to use it. You might be able to put it in the manual already at this point.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and excuse me, and as you said, it was very difficult to understand the real situation in resettlement communities by online. And so I wrote elaborate analysis part in the manual. So but before, as I explained in the presentation, I added a community analysis based on asset-based community development. So it will be helpful to analyze their communities and their assets by themselves. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, yeah, it is, if it's possible.
Thank you, Yuno. May I ask Dr. Lim if you still have other questions to ask, or are you satisfied with the response?
With subject to the revision, I guess, of the paper, it is okay.
All right, thank you. I think we miss out on your response to Dr. Joel's comment early on. So I would just like to re-emphasize the point of Dr. Joel on how do you plan to re-articulate your the theoretical and conceptual frameworks, particularly on your arguments on social enterprise.
Yes, to answer the question, so the concept that we try to include to the project is community based approach and also co-production. And when we started to talk about social enterprise, we first look at the general concept of social enterprise, the definition from OECD, and then we try to help them to create a social enterprise that can produce profit and also employment opportunity at the same time. So that's the one of the aspects that we looked at. And I guess in terms of the theoretical side that we focused on, I guess I cannot explain the right answer at this moment. So this is something that we have to take it back and gather our thought again and make it to the document as a manuscript.
Thank you, Koki. Dr. Joel would like
just very quickly. You need to work out on the social enterprise concept that would be applicable in this context of the work. But I would also encourage you to to go beyond the OECD definition of social enterprises. Because for one, OECD is a concept that's crafted from a particular part of the world, and you already had engaged with Jolly Homes and other partners, and you probably also see the limitations of the OECD understanding of enterprises. But with that, I'm yielding the floor. I do understand that we're fortunate enough that some of your partners from JHF had graced the event. I could yield to them, of course, beyond the concept of social enterprise. But they might also have some comments. Art?
May I just add to that suggestion? I imagine there's a rich literature, even on social enterprises in the Philippines, the experience, actually, in actual experience, and that might give a different flavor, even to the contents of the manual in terms of the common experiences that are, problems or issues or experiences that have been faced by groups of poor communities that have ventured into social enterprises. So that might give more a local flavor also to the discussion of your project, as well as maybe the manual. So in terms of specific issues and usual challenges that have been faced by social enterprises in the country.
Thank you.
Yeah, just some information. Earlier there's a conference about social enterprise held here, right? So, and I pointed it out to the group also. But since it's over, maybe you can also try to request for the materials on that, because those are Philippine context social enterprises. So sorry about that. Maybe yield that to the Jolly Homes. Sorry.
At this juncture, I would like to call on the representative of the Jolly Homes Foundation, because I think we have attendees from them. Yes, I would like to call on Vince Eugenio of Jolly Homes Foundation. Welcome, Sir Vince.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us in this presentation. The experience that we had with Koki, Daiki, and Yuno, as well as with the two pilot communities, have been very enriching. And together with the post-activity report, we submitted the results of the post-activity assessments that we did, focusing on three aspects. One would be the value of co-creation, because no matter how standard looking the manual is, it is actually a product of a series of meetings conducted by the team with the community leaders that they get to work with, that they get to utilize the manual afterwards. So we have some reflections on the value of co-creation. The second thing would be the link between community organizing and enterprise development, because like what Koki mentioned, Jolly is not just doing enterprise dev work. We are into community organizing and organizational development. So how would this pilot workshops contribute to the greater goal of organizing, and what would be the role of organizing in developing enterprises based on not just based on Jolly's experience, but in the implementation of the capstone. So we have some realization on that. And the third one would be the challenges associated with social enterprise development in relocated communities. How can enterprise development contribute in rebuilding displaced communities, as we have experienced it in the two sites? Actually, St. Therese, one of the sites, was established just in 2018. So most of the families there were new to the site. So the the insights that the community gave on establishing enterprises vis-a-vis the goal of sustaining their stay in the relocation site would be very valuable. These insights and trajectories were submitted to the team. I hope they would be able to incorporate that in the final manuscript, because like what Ma'am Jean Caraos has mentioned, the insights of the communities would be very valuable in looking into how do we do enterprise development in the future, and how do we produce knowledge products for the use and the utilization of the community. And Koki, Yuno, and Daiki, given the limitations of time and being virtual all the time, have made their mark in the community and in the project that we implemented. And we thank everyone for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Vince, for that insightful comment and reflections. I would like to ask our presenters for your response. Do you have any thoughts on the sharing from Sir Vince Eugenio?
Yes, thank you, Vince. Just a quick comment from me. Well, first of all, thank you very much for working with us. And because of the virtual modality, without the support from Jolly Homes Foundation, we wouldn't be able to conduct any of these. So that's the big thanks. And I wanted to show our appreciation to not only Vince, of course, Raijo, community leader, and entire organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Koki. Do we have other comments or questions from our examiners?
I'm actually good. Just reminding the group to incorporate the comments in the final manuscript.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
The points raised by Vince is quite important as well to be incorporated in the manuscript.
Thank you, Dr. Joel, Dr. Caraos, and Dr. Lizalim. I'm now turning this over to Trish for the next group.
All right. Thank you, Sir R. Thank you to the presenters, examiners of Group 2, and from the representative from Jolly Homes Foundation. Now, let me call on the third group with the topic Community Empowerment through Human Rights-Based Participatory Training, Prevention of SGBV in the Domestic Sphere in Ampara, Sri Lanka. Presenters are Sajid Ahmed Panurdin, Tilini Ruantika Galapatike, Nguyen Hong. Good luck.
Thank you, Professor. Let me share the screen. Good afternoon, Professor, IPS fellow, and participant. My Capstone Project team member, includes Sazis and Tilini from Sri Lanka, and me from Hanoi, Vietnam. Today we will present our Capstone Project Happy Home, a training manual for Diria women on sexual and gender-based violence in the domestic sphere in Ampara, Sri Lanka. Our presentation will include 6 content. Number 1 is about the introduction, problem, and objective. The next section is the number 3 and number 4. Tilini will present about the conceptual framework and methodology. And the next one, studies, will say about the result analysis. And the last one is our conclusion and recommendation. About the general project background at the global level, about 35% of women in the world experience physical and sexual intimate partner violence or non-partner violence. At the national level in Sri Lanka, 1 every 5 women, more than 20% of women were report to have the domestic violence, especially by intimate partner. And within the period from 2014 and 2015, more than 1,000 report domestic violence cases reported in 2 districts, Patikalwa and Ampara district. So the Ampara district is our target district. It's one of the districts in the eastern province of Sri Lanka. Regarding about our project partner, its name is called Eastern Diria Women Development Foundation in Ampara district in Sri Lanka. It is a local NGO, and its main activity include to provide psychosocial counseling program for women, provide legal counseling and support, raising awareness on the violence against women, and promoting economic empowerment through vocational training. Our central problem of the project is that Diria Women Foundation, they do not have the effective and organized training manual with a participatory and human rights framework to combat STBV in their localities. There are 3 root causes of this central problem. The first one is the scattered training material among the local NGO and organization because of the lack of collaboration among NGO and relevant agency and donor. The second one is that the current available materials are complicated and lack of the co-production and without the proper needs assessment. And the last root cause is the lack of participatory approach in developing training manual because lack of capacity of staff and the staff do not have adequate training. The central problem of the project is that can provide different consequences. The first one is that without the appropriate training manual, the foundation could not provide effective training, and as a result, the victims are not able to seek the redress. And the next one is that lack of the participants of men and boys in the training courses, and as a result, men in the community do not change their behavior, attitude, and continue to do the harassment. The training are also not inclusive. People with disability do not have opportunity to join the training. And the last one is that participants not able to understand the concept and identify the violence. There are 4 objectives of our project. The first one is to build the capacity for local NGO and also the community member on SDBV. And we apply the participatory and inclusive process to develop training manual to ensure that an inclusive training manual is available and trained to the local NGO for different target group in the community member, women, men, people with and without disability, girls and boys. And all of these objectives, it will be served to achieve the overall objective is to reduce the violence, the SDBV rate percentage in the area. Next, our team member Tilini will share with you about the methodology and conceptual framework.
Thank you, Na. So next we have our conceptual framework. Could you please move the slide? Yes, when it comes to the conceptual framework, we have identified the key terms first. So we have sex and gender violence, SGBV, and domestic violence as the main terms, key terms. And also basically we have 2 theories employed in this project. First one is the human rights-based approach, HRBA. The reason why we selected this approach is that like we believe sexual and gender-based violence is a human rights issue, especially against the vulnerable groups like women and children. And also we will discuss this 3 C's approach, the strongest pillar of our project in the methodology part. So we can move to the methodology part now. In the methodology part, you can see in the next slide our project setting. So according to our project setting, please move to the next one. According to the project setting, we had two phases. The first phase is the process of developing the training manual, and the next one is the TOT. So I will explain the process of developing this training manual very briefly. So this was in this process, we all were co-designers, and also this process we consider as a cyclic process. I think we receive their feedback throughout the process, and also we adjust with their needs, and also considering all stakeholders' necessities. And we also try to align with the co-production of knowledge principle, co-creation of capacities principle, and also we wanted to feel them that this is our project. So basically not to dominate by the Capstone group, but to feel them that we all have benefits from this shared initiative. So when it comes to the TOT, we trained 10 staff members of the selected organization, and there were volunteers and also women society representatives who works closely with the community members. As you can see, we conducted this project in the hybrid mode, considering the prevailing crisis situation in Sri Lanka. So the beneficiaries are the firstly, the Capstone team and the staff. We selected organization, the Women's Development Foundation, but we hope this initiative will go to the community and benefit a whole community in Ampara district. So when we move to the next slide, you can see what are the activities we conducted in this project. Next slide, please. So before, after we decide a topic, we had to choose a partner organization. So there were two main reasons to select this partner. First one is the location they are based on. The location, Ampara district, as Na mentioned, has a higher rates of SGBV cases. So that is one of the reasons for us to choose this organization. And also this organization is an emerging organization who works in the SGBV area. So we want them to be part of our project. As the next activity, we did our background survey using primary and secondary data. In this stage of needs assessment, we found that, as now pointed out, they need a very organized and especially simple and user-friendly training manual. So we developed the training manual and we conducted this TOT in aligning with main principles: co-production of knowledge, co-ownership of benefits, and co-creation of capacities. So when it comes to the monitoring and evaluation, we conducted a pre-test at the beginning and also a post-test, the same text, but the time difference is there, to monitor and evaluate the progress and to identify what are the pros and cons of this project. So Sajid will analyze what are the results we found in this process.
Thank you, Delni. Let's look at the results. Actually, like one of the results that we can concretely say the final manual was developed with the 3 C's and with the participatory and human rights based approach. And the to the TOT, as Delni mentioned, we have trained 10 staff and volunteers of the Women Development Foundation to the TOT. It was a 2-day TOT. And integration of the 3 C's, the co-creation, co-production, and the co-ownership of benefits in the manual, we see it's a result because it we follow the process, the participatory approach from the beginning until the end of the TOT. Even after the TOT, we were able to revise the manual and incorporate the changes. And effective incorporation of the human rights based approach, where we were able to look at the other different stakeholders like the duty bearers as well as the claim holders. We see there were community members engaged, so their claims, their concerns were taken into account, and also the the duty bearers were also consulted. In a way, certain duty bearers were not consulted directly, but in a way we were able to get their concerns. And in the TOT, we had the pre and the post test, and we found that 80% of the participants got the answers correctly compared to the beginning of compared to the pre-test, and the evaluation and the integration of an action plan. The action plan was integrated into the manual. So where the organization will do the training, and there would be a follow-up plan by the participants. As like in the TOT also, we came up with a plan where they were planning to use this manual and incorporate the learning in their work. Next slide, please. And the conclusions, the approaches such as the 3 Cs and the HRBA helps to engage with the community, and it's a very it's a big success. So we feel that there should be engagement from the bottom all the time, so that would make more changes. And co-creation, co-implementation, and co-benefits is important as it engages the implementers and the beneficiaries from the initial stage of the project. And engagement of both duty bearers and right holders required to work together in prevention of SGBV. And finally, the recommendations. We feel the donors, duty bearers, and the NGO staff must engage with the communities more meaningfully. That would help the community members to surface their issues and the problems, and to address those issues, and disseminate and share the training manual among other NGOs. There are a few other local NGOs and the societies working in those areas. So the manual is very simplified and easily they can use. So we believe that the dissemination of the manual would help them to apply those learnings in the real world. And engagement of more men in the NGOs work, where we feel like there are very less number of men, like only 1 or 2 men. That's also not full-time staff. So men engagement is important in prevention of SGBV. So that's one of our recommendation. And we believe that the manual has to be continuously revised and developed using the same approach, because there would be changes in the ways the issues have been coming up, and the government policies also change. And finally, to adopt a 3C approach, as it's important in engaging the implementers and the beneficiary from the initial stages of the project. So this enable the organization to use the 3C approach, and they have idea of how to use it. So we suggest that this can be a starting point and a change maker in prevention of SGBV. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Sajid, Telini, and Nguyen. So to help us improve your capstone project, may I invite our prolific examiners, Ma'am Jess Claudio, Dr. Melissa Navarra, and also Dr. Wilfredo Torres III, and Dr. Enrique Niño Leviste. Who'd like to start first?
Okay lang ako.
All right. Go ahead, Dr. Will.
Thank you, Sajid, Telini, and Hong, for your presentation. Your study sort of takes me back in time. I was there in Sri Lanka twice. One in 2005 and 2010. We were sort of exploring how to track conflict and underlying tensions in Batikaloa and Trincomalee. And your study sort of highlights something we missed, obviously. That's sexual and gender-based violence. It goes to show, right? Goes to show that the fact that we tend to look at issues based on what our donor wants us to look, right? So we tend to miss this kinds of important issues. Now, just to nitpick a bit, on page 15, there's a mix-up between your outcome and outputs. Maybe it's just a typo. So you just check it out on page 15. But what I like about this project is that it's another well-written paper, and it's certainly evidence-based. It's an evidence-based project. I like the way your interventions flowed from your review of literature, from your theory, from your needs assessment to your analysis to your intervention. I like the way it flows. So if I were a donor, I would see that your approach, the approach your project is really logical, and I would fund it. You know? No. So the other thing is basing on the quality of the suggestions given by your partners, the ones that you trained, I think. It gives us insight into how involved and how experienced they actually are as partners in this line of work. And it also gives us an insight how useful this is for them, right? But maybe if I were to, my only two question is, where is actually the training manual? I don't have it. or you missed me. Where's the training manual? And the second one is, I guess, what are you most, what are you happiest about this project that you did? That's it for me.
If I may answer the question first. Yeah. Professor, actually regarding our training manual, since we revised it after our TOT, like now we have that manual, we will send it to you with the comments of our supervisors. We had a recent meeting with them and we are revising accordingly. That's the reason. So we are sorry about that. Considering to answer your second question, what are the happiest thing about this project? So we have a lot of things happy about, but I will take one. So the first thing is when we go physically to that location and we conduct that TOT, we saw how enthusiastic the partner organization and the women's society representatives. So we all witnessed that their active participation in this program. And also our perspective kind of changed. For me, actually, my perspective changed because I am used to a setting because I'm coming from the academia. So my setting is lecture-based. So I learned a lot of things from them that in a co-produced work, so we have a lot of them to learn from them. So we are not the trainers, only the trainers, but we can learn. This is a shared initiative and we learn a lot of things from them, especially from their practical experience. So that is the first thing I would like to highlight. Thank you.
May I also share with my answer to the professor question? Firstly, thank you very much for the compliment about our evidence base and also flow of the manuscript. I have to say that because the economic crisis in Sri Lanka, so I did not have chance to join the field work consultation with the partner and also the TOT training. But my impression from our partner is I'm just thinking that we could not find the better partner for this project than Diria, because they are so enthusiastic. They provide lots of information. For example, during the consultation, they impress a lot that we need a simple, user-friendly language training manual that we can use. We do not use a lot of academic work. We want the simple one and user-friendly. And also, we also ask them about the scope of the training manual. For example, how many pages do they think that the channel can use for the community member? We also concern with them how many days should we use for the training. And they suggest that the maximum is 2 days, 1 or 2 days. So it's very enthusiastic and consultation and contribution from the partner that I think that we cannot find the better one. And regarding the training manual, I would like to say that we already have the full draft training manual. The only thing that we need now is to format the layout of the training manual. So all the parts is finalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your comment. Actually, I know this organization for a while, and they had many donors, like if I'm correct, they have the Asia Foundation and many donors. They have the funding, and also they were given the manuals developed for the international level. So when it comes to the local level, they had the difficulty in using that. Even they didn't have the capacity to understand the manuals. You know, so it's very complicated sometimes. So they wanted it to be very simplified. And also the people in Ampara rural areas, they are not literate, like they are not well educated. So sometimes they will understand the technical jargons and all those stuff. So one of the things we came to know that the women in certain rural areas, they treat men like next to the god. So they feel like they have to bear everything that the men would do. So those things were really struck us, and I think it was a very good experience that we had with them actually. So overall, it was a very happy process for us.
I also just would like to ask the question regarding the the most happy moment of the partner. I just would like to say that on the second day of the TOT training, all the participants from the Women's Society and also from Foundation, they joined the training from the morning until 3 p.m. without lunch. I just remind Tilini and Sadis many times, please let them have lunch, but they were still very enthusiastic, and I'm just so happy because I think the most important point is that we have partner with the strong commitment and dedicate to what they are learning. So that's make me really happy. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Wilfredo. Are you fine with the responses?
Yeah, I'm quite fine. Maybe just to add a little bit, you said they really appreciated knowing about the remedial institutions to address SGBV, right? They were really happy. Maybe later on, or you already added, maybe you could add in your manual how can your stakeholders sort of map out the champions and the allies for addressing SGBV. So because they really appreciated the remedial institutions or knowing about them, and maybe it will help them if they know already who are their allies and the champions for helping them with SGBV. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilfredo. Ma'am Jess, let's have you.
Thanks, Art. So as the group mentioned, we had a recent consultation with them. So actually, Ma'am Melis and I's questions have already been addressed. Most of them have been addressed by the group already in their presentation. So maybe what I have is just one question and a few suggestions. And this is something that I did not see in the presentation. So this is from our last consultation. In the presentation, you did not mention that you did a gender analysis, but in the manuscript, you mentioned that you did a gender analysis. But if you remember, I asked you last Monday, how did you conduct the gender analysis that resulted into the creation of a training manual for DWDF? And I'm also interested in terms of what gender analysis framework you used and how it is aligned with the human rights-based framework as well as the 3 C's framework that you presented to us, because you in your discussion, the 3 C's framework and the human rights framework are both clearly defined and clearly explained. But perhaps the part that I'm not so clear about is the gender analysis part. So did you have findings related to that gender analysis? I understand that you targeted a community or an organization, a partner organization that deals specifically with sexual and gender-based violence, which is why gender is, a concern, something that's an easy conclusion to make. No, but in preparation for your project design and your training manual, no, how was it part of the process of the creation of the manual? So that's the question. And then maybe another suggestion is, you mentioned in one of your slides that you did a pre and post test after the training of trainers, after your TOT. And I was wondering, in your manuscript, you included one narrative, a success story. So I was wondering if there's also a quantitative component to the pre-test and post-test. And if so, no, maybe there's a need to present that in the manuscript. But if it's purely qualitative, perhaps you can add a few more narratives or success stories, no, about their feedback. No, you thematically analyze them in the results and analysis portion of your manuscript. But maybe what I would like to see are the actual words from the participants. And then yeah, you mentioned, this is my question pre-Doc Willie's question a while ago, no? If there are revisions that you have done to the manual after the implementation, and just you mentioned that there are, no? I have a draft copy of the manual, no, which I can say is very well crafted. You have activities that are easily understood by your participants, no? And I was just wondering what revisions were made in response to the feedback of the participants, no? So that's my set of questions, but perhaps the most pressing would be on the gender analysis part. So maybe the group can answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. I can thank you for the gender analysis. We would like to mention that we have all the information regarding the gender analysis. And but because the limited time of the presentation, so we prioritize what we feel that maybe is more understandable and more reachable to the public. So that's the reason why we did not put in the presentation, but we've been integrated in our manuscript as the recommended by you last Monday. And I really regarding the pre-test and post-test, we do the evaluation both on the organization of the TOT workshop, also about the content of the training manual, about the flow of the facilitator. So we have all the information, both qualitative and quantitative, because some of the questions we used the marking level from 1 to 5, and also some open-ended questions. So we have all the qualitative and quantitative for the evaluation. So we will try to consolidate the data and put it in the manuscript. And we will try also to include training manual as annex. I'm not sure as annex for the manuscript, and also the exert some afterwards. Actual evaluation of the participant in the post-test, yes, in the manuscript if possible. The reason we, after the TOT, during the TOT training, we also receive a lot of feedback from the participant regarding the content, but now we have not yet have the feedback for the whole, because we need to translate the training manual into the Sinhala language, so then we can get the final comment from the foundation and also the Women's Society. And thank you.
Would you like to add Felini and Sajid?
Yes, I would like to answer the last question by Professor. So you asked about what are the revisions we made after the TOT. So actually, we asked them in the TOT, what is their most, according to their understanding, what is the most important activity in this training manual? So they said that most of them said that it is the gender violence tree activity. We created an activity called violence tree. So they found the root causes, they found the consequences and all. So we wanted to allocate more time on that activity, and we developed that activity in our manual after this training manual. Actually, to be honest, we did not have this activity in our initial training manual. So after we consider all the aspects, time considerations, we wanted to give them an overview about sexual and gender-based violence. So as a strategy, we use this violence tree activity to incorporate a lot of areas of this project. And I think we are quite successful in that regard because of their feedback on that. Thank you.
Sajid?
I would also like to add on the gender analysis part. Actually, like we did a gender analysis matrix at the beginning of the project proposal level, and during the participatory discussions, initial discussions with the organization, we were able to identify the interventions that we are going to make, how it impacts on men and women and girls and boys, and how the situation is there at the moment. We were like, they had something on Harvard tool, they had done something earlier. So we were able to get, through the desk analysis, we were able to get some idea of how the roles, the reproductive roles and the productive roles have really been part of the community. So that was really helpful in the process. And the matrix was the main, the analysis tool that we used to analyze the stakeholder. That's where we came up with saying that there's very less number of men involved in the entire process. So that's one concern that we had from the beginning. So that's the thing. That's the only thing that I have to add there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajid, Telini, and nga, no? So maybe just to, as a final note, no, to incorporate the gender analysis, even if it's just a brief explanation, as well as the feedback, no, the quantitative, both the quantitative and the qualitative feedback. So that's all. Turning you back to Art.
Thank you, Ma'am Jess. Now let's have Dr. Niño.
Thank you, Art. First of all, I would like to commend the group for raising many insightful and commendable points in their presentation. What particularly struck my attention towards the latter part, the concluding parts of the presentation, was one of the recommendations really was to have the donors, the duty bearers and the NGO staff to engage more enthusiastically and meaningfully. I would just like to get a sense of what the group or what the team means by this, and how can this engagement can be further operationalized. In other words, what are the steps that the team envisions in creating an atmosphere or an environment where these stakeholders can meaningfully and productively engage?
Yeah, may I?
Sure,
Yeah.
Sajid, please.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we included that there, because in Ampara, they have a district protection committee where the duty bearers, the NGOs all come together once in a month and they meet up. So they are also something called DCDC, District Child Development Committee, like same like the DPC, District Protection Committee. But most of the time, these organizations, so there you find the police, there you find the other organizations coming in and discussing about the protection issues in the area. But most of the time, the child protection issues are raised, and but the sexual and gender-based violence, those issues are really neglected. So that is not really surfaced. And the another reason that we included it there, because the organizations, the NGOs, they go to the village and they do the capacity building and empowerment programs. but there is a separate government wing. Say in a division, there would be 4 officers appointed by the government where they really don't function, you know, like they are separate and they don't do anything. If someone comes there, they will help them. So there is a lack of networking among the government mechanism and the NGO system. So there is a government legal aid body, but that is really used by people, where the NGOs also have their own legal aid system. So we wanted these organizations, including the donors, to come up and work together. I think they have tried this before, but it's really not have functioned. With the COVID, it has come to a standstill. So they want to again reintroduce the system and make sure that the system, the collaborative and networking system works well, because when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence, there are shelters. Certain NGOs have those shelters, some are out of the district. So the networking is very important, because the domestic sphere, it's very difficult for people, the victims, to challenge the violence being at home. So that's where we brought this up. Maybe Na and Tilni also can add on to this.
Thank you, Professor Nino. Can I add some answer besides Sazis mentioned?
Yes, please.
We're having the collaboration with the local authority, because during the consultation with the partner at the beginning of the development process, one of the key problems we found out is that the community member faced a lot of challenge when they inform the SDBV case to the local authorities. For example, to the police, they do not have the right response, it's not timely response. So it's not only they do not really know who to go, but sometimes they know who to go, where to go, but they do not get the appropriate action. So we are thinking that if only the NGO chain, the community member, is not enough. So one of the component, one of the sessions on the second day of our training manual, we recommend to invite the representative from the local authority in the mapping of the SDBV from the police or from the district protection committee to join together with the NGO to deliver the training with the community member to get more reputation and the better collaboration between the NGO and local authority. And also from the problem cheese that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, one of the other key problem is the currently there are several kinds of the training manual on SDBV among the NGO, but they are very scattered. They are ad hoc, they are not systematically changed. So they need the more better collaboration among the NGO themselves also to consolidate and systematize the training materials for the deliver of the training. So one of our recommendation to the foundation is that when they do the pilot training to the community member, please also invite and say to other organizations, local authority and NGO. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sajid. I think a quick recommendation for my last point this afternoon is Tilini mentioned how she was connected, or she's still connected with the academe. And since the team's intention, one of your main objectives is to institutionalize this training program more diversely. I think converting some of its components or elements into curriculum materials later on would really be a benefit, because then you would be institutionalizing not only awareness campaigns, but basically capacity building methods, not only in the context of civil society work, but also equally important in the context of schools, which admittedly has wider reach, and could span ages and cohorts and batches. So that's probably a consideration that the team can explore moving forward, as you aspire to make this program more sustainable and institutionalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Niño. And now let's have Dr. Melissa.
Yeah, for the last question, congratulations, team. You did well, and a rejoinder for what Doc Niño mentioned about institutionalizing this in the curriculum. Not only that, you can now go further by institutionalizing or setting up a partnership between the academe and the communities, the NGOs and communities on the fringes. So that can also be possible, especially if you already have the right people there. You have Fellini, and then you have the curriculum, so you can also explore on that area. My question is regarding the relationship of the context, because when you implemented your Capstone project, you implemented it in a unique condition, under a unique condition, because Sri Lanka until now is experiencing a severe economic crisis. So you tried to implement it using the 3 C's. Now I'm really interested to hear, and I hope that in the manuscript we will also add this, your insights that you can draw from your experience in relation to the methods, and also to the theory of 3 C's, implementing 3 C's and under unstable and maybe sometimes hostile environment. So yeah, so any insights that you've gained so far? Anyone can go ahead now.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Melis. I will start first, and then maybe Tilini and Sazis will add in. So beside all the beautiful things that we choose a very committed and dedicated partner during the development process that we can discuss together, consultation together, they put the recommendation, and we together develop the manual and also the conduct the TOT training, which is very active and participatory. But because the situation of the economic crisis, so we also have some limitation and challenge during the development process. For example, most of the staff of the foundation, they are women. We already mentioned in the manuscript of our limitation is that what our consultation and information get from the foundation is from perspective of one gender. We still have limitation in guest consultation with men and also with the people with disability and community member. In our initial work plan, we already plan to have a consultation meeting with community member, but because the situation in Sri Lanka is very difficult for the transportation of the local people, and also the price of the petrol is increased, transportation without air conditioner, so we could not organize the consultation with the community member. It's mainly with the focal point and also staff from the foundation. So that's the reason why we mentioned in the limitation, and also put the recommendation for the foundation for the follow-up that when they do the pilot training using the training manual, try to involve men, people with disability, and also the community member. Of course, they are the participant, but into the pilot training to get more diversified point of view and perspective to improve the training manual.
Dr. Will?
Yes, just a quick question. I'm just curious if this project by your partner, does the project cater to both Sinhalese and Tamil women? Okay, that's it.
Sajid and Fellini, would you like to add to?
Yeah, I don't do that. Actually, the organization, they work for basically in the Sinhalese area. So in Ampar, you will find Sinhalese areas and Tamil areas separately. So this organization is working in Sinhalese areas, but they have two divisions coming under the Tamil areas. So we have, there are people, they are actually catering to both sides. So the manual will be used for both. So this is a new development in this project. They came up with the intention to work in Tamil area. So that's a new for them. And so this has been a new beginning for them also. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anthony?
Yes, I would like to respond to Dr. Melly's question first. So when we think about this strategy, especially during a crisis situation, so I think it's very innovative, and it's very, I think, how to say, it's very useful for us to think about creative solutions, because we all are in a very pressured situation with economic crisis and other related stuff. Especially when it comes to domestic violence, we know if there's outside pressure, so the domestic violence automatically goes up. So in the action plan, the community, the participants actually came up with a very good creative suggestion. They were saying that like they are planning to have some street dramas and also creative drama series to aware the community. So I think in a situation like a crisis situation, so in addition to using a training manual to train them and having sessions with them, this kind of creative initiatives are also very important as it releases the pressure of the community in a different way. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Thelini. Ma'am Melise, do you have additional question?
Yeah, well said, well explained, Thelini. No? So we're able to see unintended consequences of the crisis, no? And people now are on their toes, no? To look for creative ways, no? Ways that will appeal to the target respondents of the training manual. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, presenters, and thank you to our examiners. Now let's have Ms. Trish for the next group.
All right, thank you, Sir Art. Thank you to the examiners and the presenters from Group 3. Let me call now the last group for this afternoon, Group 4, with the topic Perspectives, Pedagogies, and Partnerships, Co-Creating Peace Education Programs in a Local Charity School in a Suburb of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Presenters are Carla May Bremen, Fumi Kuribayashi, Kanade Kumimoto, Tam Tran Tu.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, professors and my classmates. Thank you very much for your time and your patience. We are the last team to present our project called Perspectives, Pedagogies and Partnership, Co-Creating Peace Education Programs in a Local Charity School in a suburb of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. To begin with, let us share a short video from our project implementation.
Việc lúc nào ta lại có thể gặp nhau một lần nữa là khi đó em cảm nhận mùi hương vàng cánh hoa sữa. Em yêu tất cả thật lòng này như một rừng bí đầu mưa thuở. Yêu một ngày có lẽ phải học thêm nhiều điều. Cá chỉ ra ngoài việc cuối cùng em còn thiếu. Dạ, em xin
So we try to create warm, safe, and collaborative spaces where every participant can be their true self. So to introduce the details of our activities, here is the timeline of our presentation today. So I will pass this floor to Carla.
Thank you, Fumi. So just a short and brief background. Areas along Mekong Delta from many years ago were a major source of agriculture and aquaculture. But however, due to the adverse effects of the climate change, it became vulnerable which greatly affect people's source of living that force them to migrate to urban centers for seasonal labor. People who move to the city face social inequalities such as access to education and other basic needs. And moreover, there was large increase in the number of out-of-school children. This was the reason why the school was established to cater to these children, especially the migrants. Next slide, please. During the need assessment stage, the project team found out that the school is facing a lot of challenges. But as you can see, there were more problems identified for teachers. Also, due to limited time and resources, the team and the partner organization finally agreed to focus on the teachers' concern, which is to mitigate their stress by changing their mindset and behavior through peace education. Next slide, please. So the location of the project is in District 9, which is in the eastern part of Ho Chi Minh City. Next slide, please. So here's our project timeline. We started communicating with probable partner organizations as early as November of last year. We have identified 5 organizations and attended brief orientation to have at least some background information. In March this year, we finally decided to partner with the Eileen Elementary Lab School due to the strong resonation of our team towards the school values and mission of providing quality education to urban poor children. And of course, we wanted to do something in which we will be able to apply our passion and expertise in peace education and in working with children and the communities. We also conducted simultaneous getting to know and building rapport activities with our partner organizations to keep the connection and prepare for the on-site implementation. In June, the team finally conducted FGD and individual interviews for 3 teachers who were not able to attend the FGD. In the month of September, we let them respond to our pre-assessment right after getting the approval of our ethical clearance. And on September to October, we finally conducted our actual implementation of the project on site. Finally, reflection and post-test assessment were done just this December to give them some time to implement their planned activities. Next slide, please. So the project wouldn't be possible without this wonderful team. Firstly, the research team is composed of us, Fumi, Canada, Tam, and I, and our ever supportive advisor, Dr. Niño, who guided us in every step of this project. Secondly, our partner school composing of 12 teachers, 4 volunteers, and a very dedicated school director. Thirdly, the community, which is composed of parents, caregivers, and children or students. And lastly, the APS for funding this project and our passionate volunteer translator, Hannah. And to discuss the knowledge framework, let me call Canada.
Thank you, Carla. For this Capstone project with Eileen School, the main theoretical framework focuses on the pedagogy of peace education, particularly Paulo Freire's pedagogical philosophy, utilizing problem-posing education, experiential learning, and the concept of peacemaking circle to enhance teachers' internalization of the learning process, as well as building the 3 types of the culture of peace. In the practice of peace education, it is important for learners to understand the concept of peace because the word peace encompasses a variety of meanings depending on the context and the individual perspective. Peace can be categorized into negative peace and positive peace, as you may all know. And furthermore, they are categorized into 3 basic kinds of peace: inner peace, social peace, and peace with nature. Based on this understanding, the word peace for this project is interpreted as something that participants can learn and change their ways of behavior individually and collectively to nurture total peace by focusing on each kind of peace holistically. Towards the total peace in the context of Eileen School, this project utilizes problem-posing education, experiential learning, and a peacemaking circle. A problem-posing education as a practice of freedom set forth by Paulo Freire emphasizes the value of dialogue in the equal relationship between teachers and students and critical thinking in a co-creative learning environment. True dialogue, which requires critical thinking, is the essence of problem-posing education, and it encourages individuals to advocate the needs of the community. Experiential learning introduced by David Kolb is a philosophy and a methodology that enables learners to increase knowledge, clarify values, and develop people's capacity to contribute to their communities through direct experience and a focused reflection. According to Kolb, learning begins from here and now concrete experience, which is a base of observation and reflection by critical thinking. The process of experiential learning follows the cycle of concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. This cycle shows the learning process where knowledge is created through a transformation of experience through learners experiencing, reflecting, thinking, and acting. Peacemaking circle is used to create bonds, establish values, share experiences, and build relationships among a group of people who are working together in the same community. It also enhances effective collective action and mutual responsibility. Furthermore, peacemaking circle enhances problem-posing dialogue that allows participants to share each other's concerns and help them identify needs for social change. The basics of the peacemaking circle process mainly follow the 4 sections of humanness, starting from getting acquainted in the physical section, identifying an issue in the mental section, telling a story in the emotional section, and taking action in the spiritual section. Within a circle, participants can have an opportunity to raise their critical awareness for the surrounding world, create dialogues, and empower themselves. As such, the culture of peace is nurtured through the peacemaking circle process among participants of this project. So Tam will take over the presentation next.
Thank you, Kanade. Next slide, please. So I will share about the result analysis from what we do. First of all, I want to bring on of the concept and framework that we do in literature review into the on-site activity. So during 2 weeks of implementation, we have very tight schedule with a series of problem identification with conduct previous before. Now we have solution planning sections focused only with the teacher and the staff to identify what they want to do to address the problem related to peace education. In the other hand, we an outsider, we also have a chance to involve in the school everyday living with the class observation. We also do the home visits to where students live. We also have a student interaction section with all of 300 students in the school. And also we have a focused discussion workshop with the volunteer too. Those activities provide tied together to enhance the knowledge between the Capstone Project and the on-site, the school team. Next slide, please. So to be more specific about the triangle of peace, in order to establish and nurture the culture of peace within the school project, the school team, they voluntarily register to the corner they really want to enhance for the island school. So one group, they want to work on the inner peace. They focus on how to support the children and also the teacher to express and calling the emotion they identify with the most significant part. For the social team, social peace team, they focus on how to enhance the relationship between teacher and student, which is didn't consider before the implementation. And the peace with nature, they focus on bringing more peace with plan, with decoration that speak out, visualize the value of peace within the school. So those 3 groups, they work together to identify the very specific plan that they want to do with the support from our Capstone team. Next slide, please. So in order to analyze the impact of the Capstone Project, we conduct the pre and post assessment. And here 3 significant changes after 2 weeks of implementation. The pre-assessment we conduct before our on-site activity happen, and the post-assessment we conduct 1 month after the implementation finished. So it means we have enough time to do our work really rooted in the community. And it showed that the problem posing and experiential learning and peacemaking circle is on changing, shift in positive way with the perspective of the teacher and the staff. Next slide, please. And more than the quantitative, 1 month later, the teacher report to share with us the change vividly in the school. The change in the daily welcoming with heart and high five with the student, which never happened with the school before. They decorate the class with the individual faces to encourage to personalize the learning environment. They create emotional check-in their corner and also sharing corner to foster the value of co-living among the student. They also create an anonymous mailbox that encourage students to share their feeling, their story anonymously to the teacher every day. They also encourage children to plant trees, to decorate the school whenever they want. And most important part for us that the whole staff and teacher, they require to have a monthly reflection circle together even after our implementation to continue to foster their work with from this base. Next slide, please. So based on the very brief result, we want to share that the key significant part we realized that one, the first lesson is about the engaged observation. This is bridging the position of outsider as our capstone team, bring us into the community and work together as we not only observe or listen to their story, but we do step into the community when we work as also a teacher, observe them and know what not only the challenge, but their strength to amplify in workshop together. And the co-designing process is the second important part when the whole process of identify problem, solution, and do it by the teacher and the staff from the school. With the capstone, we only hold the space and respect their voice. And that's the moment we see that the solution already inside the community. And this is the time for them to bring it out. And it's explained why when we left, the solution still continue and they still focusedly on working on it until now. So next slide, please. So the last part is about the recommendation and learning I pass to my peer.
So based on our project impact, we suggest further research by raising these questions, such as to unpack migrant children's emotional difficulties and volunteer staff's capacity development, because the promotion of the culture of peace in the school cannot be achieved through only working with teachers. And also the studies of the reality of current teachers training and the banking style of why the banking style of education that which is the depositing knowledge of style of education still dominates Vietnamese education. And these can help inform the root causes of teachers' difficulty in emotional management and the lack of opportunity to gain knowledge and practices in peace education. And the next slide. Throughout this project, we learned the significance of peace education in addressing social development issue in low-income communities. At the same time, the concept of peace education really helps us not only in teaching, but also in collaborating and designing a project itself. So we value sharing, listening, and feeling empathy, which enabled us to deliver our best effort with our interdisciplinarity. And lastly, we would like to end our presentation with a quote from Paulo Freire. Dialogue cannot exist in the absence of a profound love for the world and for people. We commit advocating this value as peace educators. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, presenters. Now I am calling on our examiners to throw in their questions and suggestions. So we have Dr. Enrique Niño Leviste, Dr. Alfred Pavlik, and Dr. Melissa Navarra. Let's start with Dr. Niño. Welcome again, Dr. Niño.
Thank you, Art. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the team of Carla, Kanade, Fumi, and Tam for generously sharing their time, in terms of going through the rigors of collecting data, but more importantly, of establishing partnerships with teachers in a Ho Chi Minh charity school. I was witness to the process by which they established rapport and they established trust and confidence, especially with the teachers. It wasn't an easy task, but here they are, presenting their life's work, so to speak, a promising endeavor, really. My first question really has something to do with something we talk about repeatedly in our consultations, in our conversations, and that's the teachers' conceptualizations, or should we say ideas of peace education. And I think there were some ideas and insights that were raised during your engagement and during the training itself, wherein the team, you guys got an idea or got insights about how teachers in this particular school thought about peace education. And probably this is something that has to be strongly articulated in the manuscript, moving forward, because I think apart from the analysis and the information that you mentioned there, I think it is also important, if possible, to discuss and to talk about how your partners, the teachers themselves, think about peace education. Now that you've gone through the workshop, now that you've gone through numerous conversations with them, it might be good to surface that. It might be good to mention that. And so as a form of question to you this afternoon, may we know, for the benefit of your colleagues as well as your panelists, may we know if there are preliminary insights, there are initial ideas about how these teachers from a charity school in Ho Chi Minh thought about peace education. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Niño. I really want to share, this is the insight from the latest, the October reflection circle from the teacher. That's been 1 month after we end the implementation in September. So the teacher and the staff, they gathered together again to reflect what happened to them 1 month after we left. And they discussed about also what did they realize during implement 3 peace project. And there's emerged discussion about what do we mean about peace. It's not only about the behavior change, but it's also how to balance, to nurture the relationship. The teacher considered peace education now related to the relationship between teacher with teacher and also teacher with student. And there is emerging question among the community that how we can balance the nurturing the peace education in the concept of relation, while we still maintain the better quality for academic achievement. This is something before. And this kinds of question that naturally emerge from their reflection together is not input from us. So we could see an observation, we could see that the teacher and the staff are moving from the position of have no idea about peace education into experiment it and start to reflect deeper how to immerse the value into their everyday life, how to foster the academic achievement with a very important to them, to as their duty to the student. So as I could see that they share that it could not finish just within this year. So that's why they come with the suggestion that have gathering monthly to keep reinforce and discuss about this kinds of question until the end of this school year. So it's mean, I think, next June or May. So from our observation, the knowledge, our perception about peace education is still emerging and digesting within the community. That is some of the information I could share from the field. Yeah.
Thank you, Tao. All right. What about other members of the group? Would you like to add?
I'd like to add and then give an interesting example from the teachers' learning. So throughout the project implementation, some teachers noticed before our intervention, they actually were using a stick to disciplining children, and then whenever they instruct, they make a sound to gather attention by students. But they realized that after our participation within the community, they realized that using stick is not a good way, or is not the good for trust for relationship building with students. So they realized that they decided to change the stick to using a bell to like give instruction, and then that they believe that the tool make school community more peaceful, not like giving a violent situation. So I think that's the interesting example and learning, and then that's what we could give or share from our experience with for the teachers community.
Another point developed from that, that's recently the school director shared with our team that she developed a 3-year capacity planning, only focus on empower for their teacher to shift the completely comprehensively from violent communication or teaching methodology into more peaceful in non-violent way. And this is the shift that she recognized that is come from the readiness of the teacher after our Capstone project. Before that, she could not do it without the readiness from the teacher and the staff. And our research analysis it also support her in building this 3-year long-term program.
Thank you, Thang. Dr. Niño, would you like to throw in other questions?
I will defer to the other members of the panel first, and if there's still time, I would ask a second question, but I'll give my colleagues a chance to ask theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Now let's have Dr. Alfred.
Hello, thank you, Art, and my congratulations for this very nice presentation and quite fascinating and very informative. So I enjoyed it quite a lot listening to your talk and seeing the results and the changes that your research and your work brought with. My question is about your pre and post assessment, and in the slide with the graphs that you showed a few slides ago, there are certain changes and there are sectors, problems, questions where there wasn't really much difference. Could you please elaborate on that also in the context of recommendations and an outlook? Thank you.
Who would like to start first?
I'll start. Thank you very much, Professor Polik. For the pre and post assessment form, we generated a question based on the concept of the problem posing education and the experiential learning and a peacemaking circle to measure the level of the knowledge and the practice of the teachers regarding the peace education. And then the question is like, what is for the peacemaking circle? What is the peace value do you want to bring in the classroom? Or like for the problem posing education, how often do you listen to your student when you have to make a decision? Something like that. It's a little bit different from, because I don't have the question now at my hand, but these are the questions. Yeah, these are the questions we asked the teacher. And then for the radar charts, we compared the result. For the quantitative question, we had both a quantitative question and a qualitative questions. And for the quantitative question, we asked the teachers to grade from scale to 1 to 5, and if they feel like they're practicing or their knowledge level is high, like a number will be high, and then we created the radar chart based on the average number of each questions, and then comparing from pre and post assessment, and we can change how through this project implemented how they change their knowledge or practice level regarding the peace education. So and then that is the detailed about the pre and post assessment. And then for the qualitative questions part, we asked the teachers to write about what peace value they have in the classroom, in the relationship with the teachers or the students. Is it coming? Oh, so we can measure what kind of word they use to describe peace value. So that's the two major points about the pre and post assessment test. Yes. And then that's all from me. If my group member want to add something, please.
Yes, I will continue to Canada part. That's the part from question 3 about the experiential learning. You see that is they have a very slight change. Actually, they didn't change so much. That is the particular question is about I apply the result of my reflection into the next teaching opportunity. This means after the own of the experiment reflection, they show the change with the post-assessment. But seem like the teacher and the staff, they are struggling in applying in their teaching. So it's more about changing the pedagogy, changing about the teaching methodology. So this is the gap that the school continue to address with their 3-year development capacity for the teacher, which is emerged from our work, just to fill in the gap that our 1-month project could not address with the school.
Yes. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Carla.
Yeah. Sure. Just to add also the result of the pre and post test. Sorry, I can hear. Thank you, Dr. Alfred. So you ask about the connection of it into the recommendation. So as much as possible, we don't want the recommendation to just come from us based on our analysis. So the result of the post test also, especially the why we ask the open-ended questions, is we also included some part in the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Alfred. Now let's have Dr. Melissa.
Thanks, Art. Congratulations again. Yay, you're done. Okay. So my question is about your intervention, the co-production project that you implemented with your partner school, and particularly in the instruction domain of pedagogy. I read from your manuscript that, and also from your presentation today, that your involvement in the co-production project has immensely influenced, changed, transformed how they engage with the students, how they discipline, most likely also reward the students, how they change the learning environment. But I want to learn more about the syllabus, about the curriculum, when it comes to peace education, and what are the
reflections, no, of these transformations on peace education because of this particular intervention that you did with the school? Yeah, anybody can, yeah,
Yes.
go ahead. Yeah.
From outside, with the co-creation process, we start from what the teacher understand about the violence and peace within the school. So we, the first thing that we don't really impose any like definition or any like academic knowledge before. They really call out what is the challenge about the peace within the school, considering the everyday practice. And during the section, four section with the solution, we discussed together about how violence affect on the children learning. We deliver the message, the information about how a human being react to the stressful or violent situation in learning process. We deliver the information about what kinds of motivation for the children when they learn, from the inner in motivation or to obey anyone else. And then we deliver the information about the SMART project design. And those are the key concepts that we deliver to the teacher and the staff. And also the definition about the triangle of peace, that is a very foundation to see how we could foster the peace within the school. Like instead of like some peace, this and that, now we concrete with three corner of the peace, how to enhance them in the school. And all of the knowledge is internalized, discussed, implement, brainstorming, and reflection by the whole team, the whole teacher. So that is more information about what we did, in particularly with the teacher and the staff. My peer may want to add more. Yeah.
Yeah, just addition to what Tam said. Our group, to be honest, we did not prepare a concrete plan for the whole sessions, because we try to avoid like the plan coming from us. So every day we have activity, as you know, this for 2 weeks we are full, even Saturday, Sundays, and based from the previous activity or yesterday's activity, we will come up with a plan based on the needs or to fill in the gaps of our previous activity. So initially that's what we did.
Yes, thank you, Carla, and that's exactly how we design, if we have to say, the discussion, the interaction section is all from the need of the teacher and the staff. So after every day, they reflect and they said that this is the thing they need. So we will, as a scholar, we search the relevant information and we deliver to them that meet directly with their current need to move the piece with the school forward with the autonomy from the community, not from us. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ma'am Mimis, do you have follow-up questions or are you satisfied with their
answers? Yeah, so we can assume that this new learnings of doing peace education will also influence how they carry out their syllabus, how they formulate, design their lesson plans, so that the instructions are also reflective of Pablo Freire's peace education approach. Yeah. So thank you very much. Well done.
All right. Thank you to our presenters and to our examiners. At this point, I'm now passing this to Ms. Trish for the latter part of our session.
All right. Thank you, Sir Art. So thank you to all our presenters, our examiners from this morning up to this afternoon. Thank you for staying with us all throughout this colloquium. Thank you as well to Sir Art and Sir Rem for moderating our interlocution sessions. I hope we all learned a lot, and hopefully, and then congratulations to all our presenters. These are valuable projects that we can use. All right, to fully grasp the development projects that we've heard today, for this whole day, I'm calling again Sir Rem Tan and Sir Art Milio for a short synthesis of the morning and afternoon sessions. Sir Rem and Sir Art.
Sige. So, hello again. First of all, I'd like to commend all of the speakers for both the morning and the afternoon sessions. You all did a great job. Hey. For the synthesis, the morning session's topic of discussion was co-production and co-benefits for youth empowerment on peace and sustainable development. We were given a rare look into the situations and concerns of youth communities in different locales that have been affected by both local and global forms of conflict. And this includes those in the AJ Kalinga Foundation program in the Philippines, the students in the conflict-stricken parts of Myanmar, the Burmese students who migrated then to Thailand, and the groups that face environmental crisis in Indonesia. While these concerns are unique and particular to their social milieus, some general patterns can still were observed, at least for this colloquium. First off, there's the importance of the youth who have been identified as potential agents of the peace process, as well as the importance of empowering these youth with the skills and awareness in order to fulfill these roles as peace agents. One common mode of empowerment that was discussed, that the researchers have all touched upon, is the importance of co-production. This is evident in both the research process itself and the results that came after, from novel applications in manual creation, to the formation and usage of education modules and workshops, to the implementation of environmental action. Sustainability was also a major concern for the groups, especially because long-term results have yet to be seen. Nonetheless, the success of immediate results point towards a more open and hopeful future, especially for these areas. That's all for the synthesis of the morning session. So thank you. So I would now like to hand over the floor to Art, my colleague, for the rest.
Thank you, Sir Rem. Yeah, just an addition to what you said, no? And generally, this is what I have observed. So what the various yet converging, capstone projects offer is that they all foster the basic principles of transdisciplinary studies, which are, as often highlighted, co-production, co-sharing, and co-beneficiary. So I think this implicates takeaways in terms of theory, methods, or methodologies, and findings. For the theory, well, as you all know, that the development discourse, particularly in terms of the Global South practices, have been overlooked for being too, I have to say, sometimes they overlook the power of the community to create, and to be involved in planning, in implementing, and in mitigating as well. So, yeah, other points that were raised are the following. So, in terms of co-creating, they highlighted power relations, and these power relations implicate the positionalities among the researchers or the social development workers, as well as stakeholders and the participants who are treated as subjects, because of their dialogic interaction with the researchers. And it's also pointed out the need to link this to the broader field. Say, for example, as pointed out by Dr. Niño, as well as Dr. Melissa, that we need to touch on broader fields, say education and in other sectors. And moving forward, yes, the examiners emphasize issues on sustainability. An example of that would be how our researchers will be able to continue with their work, no? And they're also encouraged to continue with what they have started. So that's it for me. Yeah, thank you. And I am now passing this to Ms. Trish.
All right. Thank you, Sir Rem and Sir Art, for that synthesis. So yeah, we've learned so much about today, and thank you so much to everyone. To formally close our public colloquium, may we call on Dr. Ana Marie Caraos of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology and a member of the Ateneo de Manila University Board of Trustees. Dr. Caraos.
Thank you, Trish. It has been a very long day, but I believe I speak for everyone that this has been most fulfilling, very rewarding, and very profitable day for all of us. And throughout this time, we've been talking about the 3 C's, and by now, even when we are sleeping, we can probably talk about the 3 C's now. It has become second nature to us and has been really the hallmark of the education you have received from this course. But I would like to share with you my own takeaways from the whole day's proceedings, and they are also 3 C's. Okay, the first one is I picked this up from Dr. Joel Canuday about collegial, about this colloquium being a collegial experience. And we have done a lot of collegial learning from each other. The students have taught us, I believe, so much, no, from the presentations that they have delivered today. We have, I speak for the examiners and the mentors, that I believe we have learned a lot from the student papers, no, that have been presented today and we have read, no, the past days. So thank you very much for all of that. The second C is that of collaborative problem solving. And aside from being collaborative, I picked this up from Pilini, no, creative problem solving. As Dr. Saloma Pedenu emphasized earlier in her keynote remarks, we in the development sector, we do not only analyze the problems, and we do not only use social science tools in order to understand our realities better, but we are there because we want to solve problems, real problems of real people. And that is why we do what we do. We immerse ourselves and we use the tools of social science so that we can better serve the people by solving, even in very little ways, the problems that they experience. So this collaborative problem solving and thinking in creative ways is something that I hope we will continue to do, all of us. And my third C is commitment. I must say I'm very impressed and gratified, you know, by the level of commitment that I see from the students in the Capstone projects, and I think this is just the beginning of their continuing commitment to the advocacies that they have started through the Capstone. I am also very impressed to see the confidence with which they have articulated, you know, the learnings from their Capstone projects, the issues and their experiences. I think this confidence and this commitment are things that you will always possess. No? And I am so proud that maybe the course has been instrumental for you in developing this commitment and confidence. And I hope you will continue to use them to the best of your abilities in whatever development sector you find yourselves in the future. So those are my 3 C's, you know, collegial learning, collaborative and creative problem solving, and commitment and confidence. So I would like to end with much affirmation which is how I feel. I feel very affirmed to be part of this program. And with much gratitude to the students, especially who have worked very hard. It is very evident that you have put yourselves very totally into the work. This is very very affirming for us to see. And also thank you, of course, to the supervisors, to the mentors, and the examiners who have given their time and expertise to accompany the students and to listen to the presentations, to comment on them, and to give their feedback. I know that the online platforms has been very challenging to do this supervision work on in an online setting, and yet I think based on the presentations that we have heard today, the engagements between the students and the faculty members have been very fruitful despite the challenges of the pandemic and the online platforms. And then finally, maybe we also need to thank the university, and particularly the Department of Sociology and Anthropology and the School of Social Sciences, for giving the institutional support to make all of this collegial learning possible throughout this course. I must say that the MPS Dev, in whatever form it will evolve in the future, I think has learned so much, from the experiences of running the program through several batches. And with this, we can all celebrate. We have done so much, especially the students. I know you still have work to do. You still have to polish up your manuscripts, and you have to come up with a publishable manuscript. There's still work to do, but for now, I think there's much reason to celebrate, and we can celebrate this all together with much pride, with much gratitude, and with much affirmation. So thank you very much all.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Caras, for that closing synthesis. Thank you so much to everyone. Before we go, may we request everyone to turn on your video so we can take our afternoon photo. Let's see those tired but happy faces. Congratulations to everyone.
Okay, everybody smile on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so I think that would be the end of the transdisciplinary social development public colloquium that we have today. Thank you everyone for staying with us, for hearing out all the presentations, and to our examiners, moderators, and to the organizers of this event. Ateneo de Manila University, Department of Sociology and Anthropology, Nippon Foundation, University for Peace, and the